Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast, the show for women who are seeking more fulfillment in life and simply not getting it from their current situation. We focus specifically on careers, but hey, we spend a lot of time in our careers, so making changes here will definitely create an impact in your overall happiness. I'm your host, Morris, and my mission is to empower women to succeed. I believe that in order to powerfully own your career, you must decide and claim that you want to sit in the driver's seat. You must know that you deserve better and be willing to not only do the requisite work, but be willing to go out on a limb to ensure your success. Each episode focuses on profiling a leader who is clearly demonstrating ownership of their career. Join me and my guests as we explore career journeys and bring you actionable strategies to use to get into the driver's seat for your career. Because ultimately, your career is your responsibility. Let's get into the show. Welcome to this week's episode of The Power of Owning Your Career. And this week we have a very special guest. As you know, I am doing a month-long series featuring men who are crushing it in their space. And so Rod Cologne is our guest today, and he's marching to the same drum, I think, that I am, which is about owning your career, as he's a podcast host and author and D&I person working in the nonprofit space as well. Rod, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Simone. I really appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right in because you host a show also. It's called Own Your Career.
That's correct.
Right. So tell me, what is your formula for owning your career? Let's just jump right in.
Sure. Well, I always looked at it that when I left corporate, I worked at JP Morgan for about 16, 17 years in human resources and recruiting. And when I started to start my own practice, that it wasn't what I expected. It was really hard. And I thought that people would just, want to help me to succeed. So it didn't really happen that way. And certainly I didn't have a good understanding of my brand, my value, how to network, till I started to look out for other people's interests. So I would say that in my first 7 months in starting my own practice, a lot of phone calls. Back then there wasn't that much, I've been on my own now for 23 years, so not much technology at that point, but a lot of phone calls, and I never worked harder. And it really, success came through the network, the relationships you built, but really looking out for their interests so that they in turn look for your interests. And I realized that as a Latino, as a Hispanic professional, that some things just didn't come naturally to me. And this whole aspect of managing one's career or being a business owner, are you kidding me? So the whole aspect of, I needed to run my career as an enterprise, but I didn't know that, and there was no books around that, but I knew that I had to change my model. And so a lot of what I've done over the last 20 plus years has been really from a perspective of what works for me typically works well for others. So I didn't have this mindset that, I'm going to develop this thing called Own Your Career. It's just been really out of what I needed to do. And then people ask me, well, how are you doing what you're doing? I said, well, this is the way I'm doing it. I says, well, have you thought about writing about it or sharing about it? I mean, Simone, I had a conference call back, 15 years. So when Free Conference Call came out, and I would have 100 to 200 people calling into this conference call every Wednesday night at 9:00, just asking questions about careers, interviewing. And that's where, every week I would have so many individuals, and these were just answers on the spot. You just, you can't look things up. So you had to just, in that, I really developed a real clear message with all those calls that came out to, we really need to think of ourselves as a great enterprise. So there was a oh gosh, Tom Peters book on, I forget the name of the book, but in his book, he spoke about being the CEO of me, right? And so that kind of started me out. Then I started reading some others, Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, and the way he networks, but the whole aspect of how do you do it. And then the owner, CEO, founder of LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman, wrote about this whole aspect of the business of you, right? This whole, that you are a business and enterprise. And then he certainly incorporated LinkedIn within itself as well. So his book really helped me to authenticate and really confirm that what I've been teaching and coaching is backed up by research. I certainly, Simone, did have the millions of dollars to do all the research, but he confirmed a lot of what I've been sharing and speaking and helping. And it doesn't matter, and you probably know this as well, but it doesn't matter if you're a middle school child or a retiree and everything in between, that the thought of you owning something, that you're the owner, immediately puts, so when I'm on stage and I bring somebody up, and they say, your name, oh, Simone. Hi, Simone. I was just talking about running your career as an enterprise. What did you think? How do you feel? And typically the individual will say, well, I'm excited. It's mine. I'm a bit nervous because I don't know what it means and what it incorporates, but I like it. And so that reminds me of the mindset of when mom and the family, I have two brothers. So we lived in the South Bronx in a tenement, projects. And so many in the audience may or may not know what a project is, but it could be 20, 30 floors and everyone's all together, and typically it's public housing. And so that was the rental mindset. So although mom and dad would do everything they could, but not everybody in that project thought of, cleanliness, all this, just was crazy. That's the rental, or what I call the employee, and forgive me for it, I just kind of extend this license here, that's more of the employee mindset, to coast. I don't own it. I'll do the best I can if I feel like it, if not. But when you go, and then we moved to the North Bronx, and we owned a small little plot, a little house, no big deal, in the North Bronx. And then all the others were, actually most of them were Hispanic families and African-American families, that it was just completely different. That we had our property, we kept, everybody kept their properties nice. And that was a big, for me early on in my life, I said, what a difference between renting and owning. And what a difference between, now as I work with individuals, do you have an employee mindset, or do you have a business ownership, career ownership mindset? And I think, Simone, in my view, we just don't have enough people to coach this. And I'm thinking, where in the books, you look at, and I do a lot of work at universities, and you say, where are the textbooks on this stuff? Yes, there's entrepreneurship, there's leadership, there are all these things, but the mindset of looking at yourself as a business owner, that you have a brand, that there's got to be a market demand for your skills. Also, we begin at middle school and working with them. So here I have a kid, let's say it's Carlos and Elizabeth, and I bring him up as well and say, hey, Carlos, so tell me, you're the CEO of Carlos Inc. Enterprises. What does that mean to you? He looks up at me and he goes, well, Mr. Cologne, I never thought I could own anything.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And I love that it's starting at such a young age to teach that concept of ownership. You said a couple things while you were talking that I want to sort of dive into. From what I could hear from you about the formula, in your experience, I heard a bit around networking and helping others to soar. And I also heard just the mindset piece that we've been talking about, really taking ownership and seeing yourself as a business versus an employee. Is there anything else, any other elements that you think is critical in order to be successful in your career?
I would say that if we look at any corporation, they have different departments. And we, as business owners of a wonderful, blessed enterprise, and if you struggle with just that thought, then I would say, you know, if you can leverage some of your spirituality, your faith, the empowerment, and just kind of look at it that we were all called to greatness, right? So now we may not feel that, we may not, but these are all part of it. So I look at it as departments. So there's a, in essence, an organizational side, the process side, the work side of what it is that you do. But there's also business development. So how do you do that? How do you do business development, from a networking standpoint? And then there's a sales and marketing and knowing the difference. There's community relations. What are you doing that your brand is out there giving back? How about the legal side, the financial side? Who's the CFO? Well, I don't know. I really don't manage money well and accounting. Right, but who's on your board of advisors that's going to help your business? But I'm intimidated to speak to others about, no, but as a CEO of your career, you're not intimidated. Matter of fact, last night I was watching 60 Minutes and they had a woman just discussing about, courage. And it's a powerful word. Yes.
Is it Brene Brown?
Yes.
Because I saw on LinkedIn that she was going to be on 60 Minutes. So I just
awesome.
I've got to catch the replay.
Awesome. Really good.
Okay.
But it was my first time exposed to her, and the whole aspect of courage is part of business ownership, career ownership. You need to have the courage, and a CEO of me has the courage. So I related with her, and I'm going to pick up her books and kind of incorporate that into my philosophy. But she was great. So they're different. So I look at it as different departments. And as the CEO, you're going to manage all these departments. Some things you won't be able to do at all. But this is where your network, and you incorporate these individuals to be part of your board of advisors. Now, one of the key things that I always fundamentally is that your family, your loved ones are on your board of directors. You have board of advisors, but the board of directors is your loved ones, right? Because I work for my family. I provide a great service to my clients. There's a big difference there. So if I work at an organization, well, let's take it. I work for this nonprofit organization called HISP. Okay. As a consultant, as a contractor, I help them out. It's a great nonprofit 501c3. We're helping Hispanic students with predominantly Hispanic role models, sharing stories and all of that. But I look at HISPA as my client. It's not a check-in 9 to 5. And no, whatever is needed. If the founder says, "Hey, Rod, I need you. Can we chat at 10 o'clock at night?" Oh, yes, it's a service that I provide. It's a mindset. So those individuals who I have guided working as an employee at an organization and truly embrace our methodology are significantly better than their peers. Because one, they know that at any point, based on your signing, which is, it's an opportunity that at any point, either side can let go, right? So if we know that going in, then I want to make sure I do the best I can to continue this relationship with the organization. But my business development, my business relationships, my business research part of me is always networking and looking at the next best opportunity. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because the organization says, we're signing, this agreement, which is at any point I can let you go and at any point you can leave. No problem. So it's not a one-sided proposition. Both sides have that opportunity. But if all you're doing is just working for the organization and not leveraging that outside, then you're not being the best CEO of your career. You're not doing your best for your board of directors.
Well, let's stop there for a second, because I want to unpack that a bit, because I think what you're talking about is an interesting concept. And personally, I feel like I really got the concept of this. I call it a success squad. All these different key players. Once I exited corporate America, it became clearer to me that I needed the lawyer, I needed the accountant, I needed an insurance person. All these different people that make me successful in doing what I need to do. I think when you're in the corporate environment and you're trying to just get ahead and perhaps not as strategic with the vision and seeing all these different elements, it's a little bit tougher, or it can be a little bit tougher to get that clarity that you need that board, you need the right elements. Let's jump right to the question about resources and how people can really build up that skill set. What are some tools that can help them to hone in on, okay, I'm in the corporate space, I want to move ahead, but I want to be thinking like the CEO of my own career. I want to take ownership of it. That's what I say. I want to be in the driver's seat. What are some tools from your perspective, your experience, that people can use to really hone in on taking that ownership of their career?
Yeah. How I got started is when I realized it's really career ownership. Then I started looking at, what does a corporation do to be successful? What do they do? And you start analyzing the strengths and the weakness of an organization. And I said, well, how can I, the business owner of me, implement some of those things? So since really this is an area that really hasn't been unpacked, and I started out looking at, business management 101, from communications to, the actual sales and marketing, all those various things. So I started looking at all the different departments, getting HR management, textbooks, these things that are available. And I started breaking those things out, from that perspective. Most individuals, when working at an organization, are super busy. I'll take it, for instance, my son. My son, same name, Rodrigo Cologne III. He was all three kids were my interns, and he interned for me, and he did they all did a wonderful job. They all complained that when I had to go to do an event and do my elevator pitch, well, I paid them, but they had to do their elevator pitch too. Would complain. But they learned the whole aspect of running their career, being in business, listening to my radio programs, and they all have benefited greatly. So let me use him as an example. He graduated from White University, goes into a program at JP Morgan. He did really well on the interview. Certainly had some practice, with that. And, knowing people in my network that can help him, right? So he used that, leveraged that. We started working. And sure enough, within 3 or 4 years, he went on a rotational program and started working. And some of the managers were asking him, you're only 24, 25, but you think so much older, like so much wiser than your age. And he goes, well, didn't say much, whatever. 6 years later, he's asked to go for an executive MBA program at Ohio State University. And he asked me, I said, Rod, trust me, I looked at JP, this you're on the leadership track here. You're on a fast track. And so he went through a program. It was on organizational sciences. And he's now, just 31 years old. He's managing a wonderful team. Matter of fact, he's one of the key individuals on this whole, pandemic, for the organization and working, because he has this mindset of, business and lean and quality and all these types of things. So when he went through the program, he said, I learned a lot of the stuff from Dad, although he didn't, wasn't a learning thing, wasn't a philosophy. It's just, this is the way he approached career and how he coached others. So I see how he has benefited, and others that I've coached, in this aspect of, although you're providing a great service to an organization, you need to really look at everything. And that's, you as the CEO, that's your responsibility. And in my book, Win the Race for 21st Century Jobs, which I wrote, 8, 9, 10 years ago, which will probably now, with what's going on in the marketplace, will probably have a second run because of all the downsizing that's going on, and it's unbelievable. We need to approach that, and then so we just take that part. I'm now downsized. I feel like, pick any word. And my whole life has been around my brand of working for this company. And so I've lost my brand. I've lost my identity. I've lost what I can say. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, I'm unemployed. And for someone who's following our philosophy, we're never unemployed. We're always employed in our business of me. Do I have a client right now? No. But then again, there are a lot of corporations right now that don't have any clients. That's part of business. So in that, it just helps you to appreciate what you have, with some a dose of some spirituality as well, and you kind of, it just helps you to have hope and execute on a direction, which is very, very important. So I love what it is that we're doing. We're just not enough out there. You talk about, not having enough. It's just, we don't have enough teachers of truly owning your career out there. They're not in our universities. They're certainly not in our high schools. They're not even in our careers. And certainly corporations are not going to, as someone who wrote a book with the title, Win the Race for 21st Century Jobs, corporations are not, getting all excited about bringing in Rod to help them find a job somewhere else, right?
Right,
that's
sure.
the mindset. That's the mindset.
Yeah.
But to me, it's always about, look, I did not do this with the purpose of getting rich or a wealth thing. It's just, I want to help people. I left corporate because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, which is truly help individuals, as I thought in human resources you could and would, and we did, but things change, right? And I kind of danced to my own beat. And I'm sure you understand that. We're just, I rock to my role.
What's in your head? What's the music? I asked another guest this, and I was very, she had like 4 songs. So since you said you rock to your own beat, tell us what song is playing. What's your theme song?
Well, there's a song that I played on my radio show when I was doing it out of Rider University in Princeton, called A Brand New Day by Sting. Okay, it's a beautiful song. It's very lengthy. That was kind of my intro song into Your Career's Calling when I was on Rider with Frank Kovacs. And to me, it's probably my Christian spiritual side, which is, it's a new day. Now I suffer from, I have mental illness, so I have bipolar. And so I've had to battle all of this without knowing that I had this illness till I was 50 years old. So it was just a couple of years ago that I realized it. But a lot of what I've done and created was out of, being someone with bipolar illness, right? So one of my things now is to talk about stigma, right? They're all variations of biases, and I spent some time and spent quite a bit of time in diversity and inclusion. But an area or space that's just right now is just taboo is individuals' mental health issues, certainly bipolar, right? So that's another area that I'm advocating for, speaking about, opening myself up so others can go there. So when I'm doing a presentation to a middle school and saying, I suffer from bipolar illness, they're like, what? Are you kidding? There's a stereotype about that. Says yes, many individuals, Winston Churchill, many others, they've suffered from this. And I do. And I've suffered and struggled and I have challenges, but those challenges have made me greater and have made me very creative because many with this illness are creative in mind. So that's all part of it and sharing with it. And I guess my goal is just to help and empower as many individuals as possible to know that there's a better way of managing one's career, and that's that you own it. You're the key person. You're responsible. you don't, it's not finger pointing time. It's not government. It's not Washington. It's not Congress. It's right there with you. You could do it. You could run it. You can, and in most, I have my master's in theology, right? So, and so you get to know religions and all different types and all that. It's just like, we all are a great community, global community. I've traveled the world. I love people. I see the differences. They're all powerful. But as business owners of our career, leveraging this powerful global network to help to be helped, is powerful. When my son, who's now at JP Morgan, was in China for a 6-month program with studies, there was an earthquake, 8.0 earthquake in China. And it turns out that was the area. As I don't speak Chinese. I didn't know, like, who am I going to call? But you couldn't reach them. All the cell phones were down. Everything was down. So I asked my brother, what do you think? He always go to the older brother. And he says, Rod, you got this network. Why don't you ask your network? Says, yeah, you're right. And sure enough, I sent the note to my network through my messaging. And within 2 or 3 hours, I had maybe 10, 15 responses about people who knew people in China, family members. A couple of people contacted me. I mean, that's a network. That's powerful. That you're there for them, they're there for you. And to be a great networker, the whole aspect of managing one's career as an enterprise and knowing yourself and all that makes for great networking, because it's not about you. You. Now it's finding out about others and seeing how you can help them out. And maybe in the future, somehow it'll be reciprocated, or someone else in your network will help. And that's the beauty. But if you look at all of this from a self-interest, numbers, money, return of investment of of money immediately, it's not going to work for you. This is a laboratory, and what we coach and teach is not the same for everybody. So you have to try this and that, prod here, research here, check this, look at this part. And as coaches, we just have to be open to, there's a general framework that we work with in that, but ultimately, there's no two businesses that are exactly alike. And there's no two individuals that are exactly alike. There's always some differences. And our role is to help them in those differences and what they bring to the table. And I just love that. I mean, I speak with folks that said, I am blessed because if you look at a graph, my passion arrow and my revenue arrow are intersecting. And that's where I'm at. And my hope at my level, and what I want, and what I desire, and what I need, and what God has given me. I'm really blessed and happy. And I wake up, I always ask individuals, how do you feel Sunday night about Monday morning? And many individuals will say, not so good. And so my goal as a coach is to help them to say, I love my Monday mornings. And so for me, I love my Sunday nights because I know what it means to be Monday morning, which is helping someone, engaging them, influencing them, exciting, doing something that is for the benefit of the community. So be it if it's church related, which is nonprofit, if it's family related, it's just simply love. If it's for nonprofit organizations, if it's for doing a presentation or a speech or whatever, it's not for the money. It's for the brand, the value that you bring, and the money will come. The money will come. The money will come. And you just have to have that faith. If what you find are your core services and the market demands those core services, then it's just 3 things: people, paperwork, and passion.
I love that. I have 3 P's: plan, partner, and personal brand. So it's very interesting. It's interesting hearing your perspective on owning your career. I love it because it just makes so much sense to me. And obviously, what you're doing is working because you've been in business, you said, over 20 something years. But I love how we brought it back to the corporate space and how you can be using these philosophies or strategies within the workplace too. But you have to get your mind right. I have to say that a great deal of the time that I was in corporate, my mind was not the CEO. It was more the passenger. It was more coming from the upbringing of what you're taught in terms of respecting authority and just doing your job and expecting that you're going to get the pay and you're going to get the promotion, etc. But there came a time where that didn't really work. So you have to reteach yourself or relearn a different way of owning your career.
Yeah. There's a wonderful book, I believe it's called Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill.
That's Napoleon Hill, and that's an excellent book on its own. But they're supplementals on that. I know there's one which I've read and I teach on, which is called Think and Grow Rich: A Latino Choice.
Oh, there's a
and I believe there's a book which is Think and Grow Rich: A African American or Black American.
Yeah, there's a Black choice, Dennis Kimbrough.
Right. So.
And there's a women's version.
Perfect. So the thing here, and what I look at is, as a business owner, it's important for me to know my competition. And I don't look at them as negative. I want to know what they do and how they do it. So in the Think and Grow Rich: A Latino Choice, it basically highlights through research the difference between a Central American, Latin American individual and their beliefs and culture versus an Anglo society. And there you get to know your strengths and weaknesses and the other strengths and weaknesses. And it's important that we know that. There's biases that go on. You have them, they have them. But as a business owner, it's important that I know it, that I'm aware of it, that I could read it out, smell it out. And so that's all part of, as a business owner of your career, you're always learning. That's like that research, the research and development department is critical to career ownership. And that's something that it may not be for you. So as a career business owner, you need to bring in individuals of your network to your board of advisors to challenge you, to help you, to encourage you, to say, when it comes to certain areas, Simone, I am clueless. When I wrote the book, the last thing I want to do is write a book. The last thing I would want to do is write a book because it's just not me. I sit down and write? No. But then individuals in my board said, well, Rod, we have writers, we have ghostwriters, we have people who set this up, people who do some marketing. Says, really? So they put it back on me. Look, if you truly want to run and use your own philosophy, we think it's in your best interest to do this and get this information out. So, okay. So we did it in a way that I was interviewed for weeks and all my data and they collected all that. We then wrote it together. We had sessions and we got it done. But if you asked me 20 years ago if I would ever be a writer, I said, look, just look at my English grammar grades or whatever. It ain't happening. So, but we're always learning. And I have to tell people, I said, look, I'm no master. I just been doing this a little longer. I've been in the trenches a little longer. I've been sharing and coaching a little longer. And so I may have some techniques or whatever that you may not have heard of, but there's greatness inside each of us that I absolutely believe. We all bring something to the table in a different way. Our role, Simone, is to make sure that greatness inside of them gets out to the public in a way that it's in their best interest and in their board of directors' best interest.
I love that. What a beautiful way to wrap up. Let's make sure that we unleash greatness around the world, especially during this time, because I truly believe great innovation is going to come from this period that we're in right now. So Rod, Thank you so, so much for being a guest on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. Please tell our listeners how they can stay connected with you if they would like to.
Well, love it. They'll be part of my family. LinkedIn is really the best way. They can find me on LinkedIn with my Rodrigo, which is that beautiful Spanish name, Rod Cologne. So everybody knows me as Rod, but in LinkedIn, I'm Rodrigo, Rodrigo, and then in quotes, Rod Cologne. And if you see another Rod, that's my son who's at JP Morgan. So you can send him a high note. But yeah, that's the best way to reach me. I'm always on LinkedIn, always helping. You send me an invitation. We'll connect. And then my network is now part of your network, and let's get it going.
Absolutely. And before we leave, because we're talking about the same topic, tell us a little bit about where they can find information about your show and what time, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. No, it's, I guess really the best way if it's Blog Talk Radio, right? Which is where the hosting is, blogtalkradio.com. And then / in the name of my show, Own Your Career. Or they could simply do a search on any internet browser and just say Rod Cologne, Own Your Career. They'll get right to the landing page as well. And it's every Monday night at 9 o'clock. Tonight we have a special. We start at 8:30 for an hour and a half. And actually the topic is going to be on virus to virtual, how to take your business wherever you are from a virus pandemic to the power of using technology.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm not sure if this is going to air in time, but thank you so much for that. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all the wisdom you've shared with our guests today. So thank you.
Thanks, Simone. Take care. God bless.
You too.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. It is my hope that you enjoyed today's episode. You can check out the show notes for this episode on the SimoneMorrisEnterprises.org website by clicking the podcast menu. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and tell a friend or two about it.